Live from the Shooting from the Lip studio in Louisville, Kentucky, it's the KT Unearthly Show with your hosts, Kevin Hale and Tiffany Mack.
What is up, everyone? Kevin Hale giving it to you on this Friday night, December 16th, 2016. It is the KT Unearthly Show, doing it alongside my partner in crime, Tiffany Mack. Tiffany, what is up?
Hey, I'm doing good. I'm just excited for tonight. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm trying to think. I don't think we did a show. Yeah, we didn't do a show last week, so 2 weeks ago was our previous show, I think, yeah.
Yeah, our guest got snowed in. I'm not even sure.
Right.
Like Northern California, they had some kind of blizzard, and yeah, I heard he had to walk to work uphill both ways in a snowstorm. So
both ways. I hate
both
when that
ways,
happens.
yeah.
Both ways. Yeah.
I do too, man.
I know. Speaking of bad weather, man, it's been like cold all week, like really cold. And do you know tomorrow?
I wouldn't know.
Yeah, well, trust me, it's the actually as the night progresses, Tiffany, the temperature is actually rising because tomorrow it's supposed to get close to 60.
What?
But then, yeah. So tomorrow, go on and get out because you might need short sleeve shirt tomorrow. But as the night, then as Saturday night winds down, winds down, there's like this polar Arctic blast is coming in, so there's potentially like a 40-degree swing.
Last hurrah. This is the last hurrah before like hard winter. Winter is coming.
I know. Let's see. Social media plugs real quick. You can subscribe to the show on iTunes or YouTube, Shooting from the Lip, Twitter at the Shooting Lip. Tiffany is Tiffany Mac _ET. I'm at Kevin Hale 423. You can like us, follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Live tonight via Blog Talk Radio. Our guest, as we'll bring him on a little later, is Byron Lacy, who is an author and an abductee. Author of a book, a recent book, Chosen, Chronicles of an Alien Abductee. Cannot wait to have those aliens and UFO conversations. Those are my favorite types of shows. So there we go. Looking forward to that. What about you, Tiffany? You looking forward to it too?
I told you this before, but Friday nights are what I look forward to most during the week, especially on a week like this when both of my kids have been deathly and violently ill all week. So they're on the mend, and I will have a few minutes this evening with you all to have some fun. So I'm looking forward to it.
Kind of a break from reality kind of thing. So,
anyway, Yep.
All right. TK Foreplay, our little pre-paranormal or type topic that we will discuss before the guest comes on. The afterlife, Tiffany. Depending on who you are, what you believe, people, obviously the religious people believe in heaven, that there is the afterlife, that after you die, for those who are really into religion and their faith in God, they'll swear that, they'll all be in a better place after they die. I kind of hypothetically thought, well, if it's so much better after you die, why don't you just die and go on and go there? But that's all right. I'm digressing a little bit. But this topic to share with you, one of those stories where, in this case, a gentleman was clinically dead for an hour and acknowledged once he was revived or came back to our world, if you will, that he was in heaven. He met his dead friends. And there was one other cool. He was met by an angel that was at least 70 feet tall. That's pretty tall angel, and stood in front of gates that were 500 miles wide. Tiffany, what is your take on when you hear stories like this?
Well, I always think that life is amazing, but the idea of death and the beyond could even be even more amazing. Not that I'm really rushing toward that final end. And I'm not sure that I really want to meet that at this point in my life, because I do have young children and I'd rather be there for all of the great moments. But I do feel like there is something beyond this physical body that we are destined to encounter. And it's an interesting story, very fantastic. And the idea of somebody being so massively large and us being so tiny, is it possible? I mean, we were taught to listen to different myths and legends, and there were legends of giants. And then you look back at the book of the Bible when they talk about the Nephilim and these divine or semi-divine beings being so much larger than us. And we talk about larger than life. Well, it sounds like maybe he met one of them. So I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I've got mixed feelings over it. Part of it is, where I struggle with the whole religion thing, because everyone obviously paints a picture of heaven, in this case, this gentleman or, church or whatever, as, the greatest of all places. There's love and there's, it is going to be the greatest feeling in the world. And I struggle with so is really the world we live in now is just a test, is it? Because there's a lot of pain and suffering with today's life for a lot of people, the proverbial, it could be worse for you and I. It always could be worse, but there's a lot of people that are struggling. There's, a lot of pain. I just, I struggle with that notion that those have to suffer before making it to is it a test? I don't, that's my take, is that I don't know. I don't believe in a loving God as religion proclaims right now, because I could counter everything someone would say about a loving God. Oh yeah, look at this. Oh yeah, look at that child suffering. And don't give me the free will, because I can't bow into that either. But it's just if there's truly a loving final destiny, or is heaven final? I don't know. Could there be, who's to say, if there is a heaven, is there another level past that? I don't know. I mean, it makes for good conversation. To me, it does. Religion and all that stuff. Yeah, because it's you can debate it, 24/7. And what it comes down to is that some of us have based our statements on facts, and others still rely on faith. And I think that's a lot to put put yourself into. That's again my opinion. So.
Well, the guy in question is a doctor, and he said that dying is like taking your clothes off and just laying them aside. I stepped out of this body, this earth suit, and then was lifted up through the top of my car, and my whole life just passed before my eyes in just an instant. Then I was caught in a swirling, massive funnel-shaped cloud that grew brighter. I just don't know if that is any different from a lot of these experiences that since we have an experiencer on tonight, but a lot of these ET UFO experiencers have had different life and death or near-death experiences. And so, when you threw this topic out at me, I was just like, well, let's go with that, because that's perfect. I've told you before that I've been drugged when I was younger. Yes, most of the time it was out at the night scene, but sometimes, like one time, it was at dinner with friends, and I had sat at the bar beforehand waiting for them. And I remember that my back was turned from the bar the entire time because I was facing the door waiting. And, there were gentlemen that coming and going and around me, but I actually ended up that night somehow getting home with, it's a long story, I'll just shorten it brief, got home, and I pretty much died on the floor. I remember my mom and my sister and my dad above me, and I floated to the ceiling and was watching it all happen from above. I was seeing the tops of their heads. I was seeing them slapping me and my sister trying to get me to respond and going into, first aid. And, I ended up coming to in the hospital the next day, but it was so strange because I literally thought to myself, I wonder why they're so upset. Like, I feel fine. I feel great. This is great. Like, there's no pain, there's no suffering, there's no feeling. It was just like, why are they so upset? I just didn't get it. Right. And then I heard, you have to go back. You can't leave them like that. And it just so happens that my little brother had passed away 6 months before. Right. So when it came down to it, it would have killed them. I mean, it was hard enough to survive, a 20-year-old dying. And then 6 months later, another child lose another child. Nobody wants to go through that. And I remember making a choice to go back. So, the next week was definitely not very pleasant. The next 3-4 days were not pleasant at all. But, I made a decision and things got better. And it was partially a grieving process and a realization that we are still here. And so you have a job to do and you have to continue. And some of these experiences that I've had that were traumatic led us to the point where we are today. And we're discussing this. So it's an interesting subject. And I would like to definitely go into some of the other experiences that our guest has had when it comes to near death.
Good segue. Go on and introduce the guest.
Okay. All right. Well, tonight we have Byron Lacy, and he is a 4th-generation Texan and 4th-generation abductee. His great-grandfather, George W. Lacy, came to Texas in the early 1850s, and he, along with 2 business partners, donated the granite to build the current Texas state capitol. He also started a dog breed, which is now called the Blue Lacy, and is a state dog of Texas, which is very, very cool, by the way, because and it looks like a Weimaraner, does it not?
Well, part of it looks like a greyhound, and I guess it sort of looks like wine.
Yeah, it's a beautiful dog. Anyways, so your first experience was when you were about 5 years old, visited by aliens, and it changed your life. So from this point, why don't you just tell us a little bit about your history, and welcome to the show. How are you this evening? Sort of backwards.
I'm doing very good. How are you?
Man,
this is like what is that movie, Benjamin Button? We're gonna do it all backwards. We're gonna end. The show will end when he finishes his at 5 years old. So.
Oh my God.
Good. I like that.
Sorry.
Hey, welcome back.
Thank you. Well, you want me to just tell you what happened the very first time?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay. I was 5 years old. It was in 1955, and I believe we had just moved to Seagoville, Texas. My mom took me into the bedroom, put me to bed, which she did every night, and tucked me in, and I would always kick off the covers after she left because it would be too hot. But anyway, this one particular night, we went through the usual routine, and she left the room, and I turned back around. I watched her leave the room, and I turned back around to settle in to go to sleep. There were 3 little guys standing at the foot of my bed, and I was really shocked. They looked strange, and they were about 4 foot tall. I could see pretty much their shoulders and their heads up above the edge of the bed. It wasn't a child's bed. It was a very old iron post bed, and it was up high off the floor. So they were probably 4 foot tall. Well, I was shocked, and I yelled for Mama to come in the room because I had never seen anything like this. And she came in, and of course they were gone. So she texted me in again and left. I turned back around and went to sleep. The next night, the exact same thing happened. And then the night after that, the exact same thing happened, except that after she left the room, I turned back around to go to sleep, and there they were again. And also there was this creature that was about 7 foot tall, but I call him a creature now because I know what he is. I didn't know what he was then. He looked like Captain Hook in a way from Peter Pan by Walt Disney, from a little book I used to have. And he was very strange. He had a big hat on, which now I believe was actually his head. He started dancing around the room, and suddenly I could not move. I managed to move my head enough to see that my hands were not tied, but I couldn't move. And my bed began to rotate in the center of the room, and the room got a lot larger. And these little guys were standing at the foot of the bed, and one of them, his face would keep changing. Of course, they were messing with my perceptions, is what it was. But sometimes he would look like the others, and then sometimes he would look like a huge cloth doll with his eyes stitched on instead of regular eyes. But as this was going on, I started to get afraid of being not able to move. And just as I was about to really freak out, they were gone. I could move. The bed was the right size. The room was the right size. And, I skipped a part.
That's all right.
And I'm gonna go.
You know
back.
what? That's how we roll tonight.
It seems to be. The third night, she came into the room, my mom, and they weren't there. And she sat down on the edge of the bed, and she put her hand on top of my head, and she said, "Son, don't call me if they come in here again, because they won't be here when I get here, and you're just going to have to learn how to deal with them yourself." And then she tucked me in and left, and then that's when they showed up.
Now,
when I read that, I thought that was very
yeah.
fun. That was very strange.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes, she didn't say.
Go ahead. She didn't. I think you're going to answer what I'm going to. Go ahead.
She didn't say there are no little men. She didn't say you're dreaming. She said you're going to have to learn to deal with them yourself. And she was a little bit exasperated.
I find that funny. Like, when it comes down to it, I bet this is what Kevin was going towards, but when somebody says you're going to have to deal with that on your own, it sounds to me like it's something that you know and you just have to go through, instead of they're not real. Like you said, they're not real. Go to bed. There's no boogeyman. She said you're going to have to do this on your own.
Well,
she knew. Like, she understood.
Well, I guess that's what I was wanting to clarify. Was she just, because the truth is, no disrespect, a 5-year-old making a claim like that, you're thinking, oh, it's my 5-year-old just having a dream, nightmare, something. I guess that's the question. Was it in her doing that to you, Byron? Was she believing you, or was she just like, it'll come and go. It's not really. It was just a dream or whatever.
Now, there's an incident that happened in 1961 that sort of puts a light on the fact that they knew. And at that time, the song "Does Your Chewing Gum Lose Its Flavor on the Bedpost Overnight" became very popular on American radio. And that song, I like the song, but one night it played in my head all night long. And I couldn't go to sleep, or I didn't think that I went to sleep. And the next morning, Mom comes in and goes, "Get up, it's time to go to school." And I said, "I can't go to school. I didn't sleep any last night." And
that's another song. Isn't that another song, too? Right, anyway.
Which one? I couldn't sleep at all last night?
Yeah, isn't that another song?
Those are probably two separate reasons.
Exactly.
So she put me on the sofa, and she gave me a soft drink, and she told me to watch TV and not go to sleep because I had to go to school the next day. And she went into the kitchen, or to the dining room next to the kitchen, and made a phone call, but I couldn't hear what she said. I watched TV all day long, stayed on the sofa all day, and stayed awake. And around 4:30 or 5, my father came home. He barely said hello to me, just got my mother, and they went into the dining room and had some kind of conversation. And then he comes back out, and I had told my mother about the song playing in my head and asked her if she knew what that was. Of course, it's your ego, and mine had just kicked in. And she said, she didn't give me an answer. So she just looked like I was strange or something. Well, Dad comes into the living room after he's talked to her, and he sits down on the sofa, and he said, "Son, if you don't straighten up, we're going to take you to a psychiatrist." So I was a little shocked by this. And also, there was a little more that he said. As he talked, I realized that I could never tell him or my mother because she had been a traitor and called him, in my mind. I could never tell them anything that was going on in my life because they might do something to me. Yeah. So it immediately started this wall between me and them. And I basically depended on myself psychologically in all situations after that. I didn't tell them when things were going bad. Well, he started telling me that we Lacys don't talk about ourselves and we don't want people to know about us. And he said, I don't even know what happened to my mother and father when I was not with them. And then he told me that in the late 1800s, or early 1900s, I can't remember which, one of our relatives, a female, told people that little men came into her room and talked to her, and they had put her in an insane asylum where eventually she had died. And he said, you don't want that happening to you.
You know, I think that's happened to a lot of people, unfortunately, especially when people, we're still trying to find the answers ourselves, and this is 2016. When you talk about people flying in the 1870s or 1880s or 1890s or 1910, they're going to look at you like you're crazy. Nothing flies, nobody can just fly around like they do today, but something was flying. There was something in the air over our land many, many times, thousands of years ago. So it's understandable to say, oh, they're just crazy. I think that we get that a lot.
I think it's easier on them if they say you're crazy, because then they don't have to face what might be reality.
Exactly. It's they say it in a kind of a dismissive way, with all due respect to though. It's like that's something I don't want to worry about now. But and then at the same time too, here's my take. Is that in your case, Byron, as a 5-year-old, a young child who's having these experiences, and you share them with your parents or friends, family, whatever, what are the odds that you're going to wind up being counseled and or medicated? Because go ahead.
I never talked about it, because Mama told me not to. My father was like 6'2" and looked like Dirty Harry and had a burr haircut, and he weighed over 200 pounds, and it was not fat. We pretty much did what he told us to do. So when they said don't talk about it, I didn't talk about it. In fact, even later when I found out about Grays in the 60s, I didn't put it together with what had happened to me. In fact, I didn't put it together until 2009. Of course, I think a lot of that has to do with programming that the aliens do to keep us from talking. And some of that might be to protect us.
I think you're right about that. I think that it's a self-preservating method that they use in order to keep us from A, being an outcast and not being able to function in society, and B, for our own sanity. And I think that's why they have a lot of the mind blocks and things that are put in place in order to prevent a lot of the experiences coming back out in our daily life.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So let's talk about the fact that in 1963 you were hit by a car, but you didn't actually feel it. Can you tell us a little bit about that experience?
Yes. We either walked to school at that time or we rode our bikes, and this was one of the occasions where we were on our bicycles, and we had to cross Highway 175 that was now, I don't remember if that was built yet or not. Anyway, we did have to cross some road that was in the same place. And then we had a long ride of about a mile to my house, and there was a policeman that was where we crossed the road. So I'm riding behind my friends on our bikes down the side of the road, and all of a sudden I see this big brown dual color car coming straight at me. And then I'm rolling on the ground, and I'm rolling right in front of the car every time, and I'm rolling head over heels. And every time my face would come up, I would be about 6 inches from the bumper, and I could see the bumper and a little of the light and the tire that was really close to me. And then I'd make another rotation. And this happened 3 times, and the car just kept coming. Of course, all this was happening very fast. The car kept coming, the car kept coming. And then my body, I couldn't move myself, which is probably a good thing. Then my body straightened out, and I flew through the air, and I went through a barbed wire fence. I went between the top and the second wire, and there's not very much space. One of the barbs dipped into my arm and made about a 3/4 of an inch long scar. And then I landed on the ground, and suddenly there were people all around, the policeman, and he was telling me not to get up. And they had actually already called for an ambulance, although I wasn't hurt, except that I believe it was my left ankle was sprained, and that's it. They insisted on taking me to the hospital because they said sometimes injuries can show up a little bit later than when they initially happened. So they took me to the hospital, and the man that hit me came to the hospital to see me, and he was my teacher's husband.
So your teacher's husband is the one that hit you?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
No, wife. Wait a minute, your teacher's husband hit you? The husband?
Her husband. And he said I had crossed the road and he had turned to miss me, but that was not true. We always rode on the same side of the road because that was the safest getting across the highway. So anyway, the next day they let me go, and they're taking me home, and they tell me I have a new bicycle. And I'm going, a new bicycle? And they said, yes. And I go, I don't want a new bicycle. I like my bicycle. And they said, well, you got a new one. And then they told me it was an American Flyer, and they had a light, and it had a little fake gas tank and a pumper. So I was beginning to like the idea. We got to the house, and there it was on the front porch, and it looked beautiful. I'd always wanted one. So then I wanted to see my bicycle because I thought, in fact, I believe I said, now I have 2. And Dad took me around to the side of the carport where my bicycle was leaning against the wall. And it was bowed where if you laid it down on the ground sideways, the seat would be about 1 foot to 1.5 feet off of the ground. It was a perfect bow. The bicycle had been hit directly at the seat where I was sitting. But yet, for me, I saw the car coming, and then I was rolling on the ground.
Now,
that's
Byron,
pretty interesting.
Yeah, Byron, please tell me that at no time did you get the idea like, I'm ready for a new bike. I think I'm just going to ride in front of
I never did that.
It's not a smart move.
Yeah.
One day, after I knew what was going on one day, I was walking this trail that I walk in town, and I was not in a really good mood, and I had decided I was going to find out if they were still watching me or not, and I decided I was going to walk straight across the road without stopping or looking, and I could hear there were cars coming, and before I stepped off of that curb, I said, I hope you guys are there. And actually, I was depressed too, so in some ways, I wouldn't have cared. Well, I started walking across the road, and this voice in my head goes, speed up. So I speed up, and I hear the cars getting closer, and it said, stop. And I stopped right in the middle of the road, and at that instant, the car going, 2 cars, one going each direction, passed by me, and I could have reached out and touched both of them. And one of them stopped. The other one sat up and left. And the one that stopped, he goes, you realize you could get hit? And I said, you realize I was in a crosswalk and you had plenty of time to stop when I was coming onto the road? He didn't say anything. He just drove off. And then I went on my walk, and I thought, well, sounds like they are looking out after me.
Mm-hmm.
Wait a minute. How old were you at this time? How old were you at this time?
This was in 2009. So I was...
Oh, okay. So this is relatively recent. Yeah, recent. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Interesting. You do have.
That's the only time.
Well, yeah. I see. This is my take. When it comes to, Tiffany, we were talking the afterlife, angels, whatever. I buy into the fact that angels are aliens. You know, all the back in the day, the myth that, or the stories about these winged angels, they were aliens. So to me, yeah, your angel is alien.
I do
Yes.
too.
Yeah. Okay. Tiffany, you there with?
Yeah, I do too. Yeah, I do. But I think that goes back to the first story when we were talking about the guy meeting the 70-foot tall guy at the pearly gates, and that were so massive and wide.
Right.
What is size in the infinite universe?
No, wait a minute. Who's to say that was he really this figure 70-foot tall? He described it as being 70-foot tall, but
Right.
in a sense, could it have been 6 foot tall and he was just smaller? Or is that 70-foot tall? I mean, you're talking like some high-rise building, right?
Yeah, 7 stories. Yeah.
Yeah, King Kong. I mean, it's
There you go. So it's
there's the visual. There's the visual.
Well, okay. So Byron, this was not the last time that you had an experience. What about the cannon explosion in 1971?
I was attending Henderson County Junior College, and I was probably 21 years old, 20 or 21. I don't remember if my birthday had happened yet. And we had pep rallies, and I was in the band. We had a special pep rally for homecoming, and we were just getting ready for our homecoming game, and we had a cannon that they would shoot off at special pep rallies. Well, the band had played all the songs we were going to play, and we were sort of milling around talking while somebody was giving pep talks too. And I started talking to this guy that I just barely knew. And I had just said a few words to him when someone tapped me on my left shoulder. And I pivoted to the left to face him. And I'm thinking, I don't even know you. Who are you? And why are you interrupting my conversation? But I didn't say that. And however, now all this happens at once. As I'm thinking this, the cannon behind me, about 15 to 20 foot behind me, it goes off. Then a gust of wind goes across the small of my back, and the guy who's about 4 or 5 foot away from me that I was just talking to crumbles to the ground. I see him out of my peripheral vision. He just crumbles to the ground, and then there's this huge crowd of people around, and I turn and look, and he's bleeding. He because it was homecoming, the guys working the cannon had put a double load of powder, and they had put a double wadding of powder. A double wadding in the cannon, which caused the back end of it to blow up. And it sent pieces of iron, 3 pieces of iron went into 3 different buildings and knocked bricks out of the building, 1 or 2 out of each building. And one of them, about the size of a hardball, or maybe a little bigger, had gone into this guy's pelvis, and it ended up shattering his pelvic bone. It would have hit me right in the small of the back at the base of my spine. He was in the hospital for 6 months. Well, anyway, after I saw him laying there, I started to turn around and tell this guy, man, you may have saved my life. And he was gone. He wasn't anywhere. Now, Henderson County Junior College was a small college, and if you didn't know someone, you had still most likely seen them during the day. I had never seen him before, and I never saw him again, but he sure did me a favor.
Well, we always talk about our guardian angels, and I think that a lot of experiencers tend to have more than one of these experiences in their life. So what you're saying is really verifying and validating some of the experiences that other people have mentioned, and it is what it is. I don't know whether it's a positive thing or a negative, but you've got a purpose. What do you think that your purpose is? What do you think that the reason behind being maybe rescued or saved or action diverted from your path? What do you feel that purpose is?
I feel I have several, and one of them was writing the book about my experiences to do my small part of helping with disclosure, and also to tell other people, hey, you're not alone. This is happening because it's happening probably to 1 in 4 people at least once in their life. So it's happening to people all over the world, but we're so isolated that we think we're the only ones. Mm-hmm. And then I'm supposed to raise my consciousness, which I've worked on since I was 21, and be creative.
So you were an art major also, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
I feel that a lot of the experiencers have very artistic tendencies after they have had their initial experiences. Have you always been an artist? I'm assuming since you had your first experiences around 5. Have you always been more artistic? Is this maybe part of our path, is to explore that aspect of life?
No, my parents never hung a picture on the wall. I did one painting. I did 3 paint-by-number paintings when I was about 12 or 13, and then I got bored with them, so I turned one over and I did a painting of a woman who was coughing, and she had bronchitis because I had bronchitis a lot at that time. So she looked like she had bronchitis, and it was...
Very attractive.
I had not seen any paintings by anybody. I knew who Peter Max was later, but anyway... So I didn't do art, and it wasn't encouraged. Later, my father said that art was something I should do after I retired. And in fact, at my first opening in Dallas, and I was very lucky to get in a gallery. My first opening in Dallas at the Ruth Wiseman Gallery that used to be there, I invited my parents, and this was the only time they were ever invited to another opening. And I asked my dad what he thought of the show, and he said, well, I think I'm going to be sick. I can't stand to see these people wasting their money on something to just go on the wall. And I'm going, oh, thanks, Dad. And then he said, and you better come see us because your mom and I aren't going to be alive forever.
Oh, my gosh.
So I tried to put myself back together.
That was a bomb, wasn't it?
Yes. Like I said, they never came to another opening because I just didn't tell them about them.
Probably a smart bet.
Nice.
Wow. I also have 4 songs out now that I've done on synthesizers. I'm into electronic dance music, but mine's a little bit more abstract. And they're on Amazon and a few different places, CD Baby.
Really? I would definitely. I'm so into music, so I would definitely share those links with us. I'll definitely check those out. And that whole synthesizer thing. Yeah.
Well, my webpage is www.byronlacy.com, and it's got 4 or 5 or 6 of my songs on it. I'm not sure how many.
Cool. That's very cool.
And you can listen to the whole song. And it also some of my aliens.
Oh, really? Okay. So does any of the music, when you did the music or put that together, did you feel like the music was supporting per se a story or an event, something you had experienced? How did you the way you arranged any of your music? Was it like, in a sense, kind of a storytelling as well?
Well, the songs don't actually tell a story, though they have names like Missing Time and 3 a.m. But one night I was meditating to a CD with an entrainment track on it to put you into a deep meditative state. And this music started playing that wasn't on the CD. I'd listened to it over 1,000 times. And it was beautiful, but it was like Bartok, or it was random. It's okay. It sounded like the way we have artists that do random music, except you could tell it really wasn't random, but it didn't have a melody line. However, somehow you could just tell it was all thought out. And I haven't been able to actually duplicate that because it was hard to remember it, but I'm getting closer to getting the same feeling in my work.
Cool. I like that. Definitely we'll check those out. I'm looking at them now. It looks like 4 4 songs, and there's some length to some of those. It's like a couple of those songs are in excess of 7 minutes. That's definitely check that out. Good stuff. Share with me your take when it comes to experiencers, abductees. You guys, and Tiffany, I know you can answer or correspond with this as well. Is that you guys are seeing things firsthand, but tell me what are you per se experiencing when it comes to aliens firsthand versus these sightings or crashes, or are they are these beings one and the same, or is it just we are totally inundated with all types of entities or beings? Because I'm curious, are the ones that that you've experienced, Byron, Tiff, your stuff is are they the same ones that someone reports that sighting to MUFON or whatever? Are those tied together, or are they just are they totally different?
Well, I'm sure they're tied together. There's more than one race of aliens. I've seen a mantis. I've seen gray. I've seen 2 mantis. One was disguised. I've seen grays. I've seen these tall beings that seem to be made out of light and are in a different dimension. I've seen some figures that look a lot. They're very short. They look sort of like soldiers or bulldogs or bulldog soldiers, or they look similar to men, little creatures that were in the movie about Whitley Strieber's book Communion, that come in and take him out of the house.
Like sort of a troll type diminutive creature, like smaller but thick.
You're describing them perfectly.
Yeah.
And they seemed gruff looking, but they weren't mean or anything like that. They the first time I saw them, they kept popping into a dream, what felt like a dream, and they kept saying, "He's coming, he's coming." They would appear on this glass case that was at the foot of my bed, which wasn't there. And this was in the I think it was still in the 70s. And I didn't know about the aliens yet. I had not put it all together. My wife and I, it was 76. My wife and I had gone to bed, and this dream happened. The next night, we had taken a job. I had a job that I was going to work at the college, maybe, but I passed it up because of a job in Austin working in a print shop, and that fell through without even us being told. We found out at the last minute that we weren't going to have a job. We went to work throwing newspapers from a car early in the morning. I think we went to work at 12 o'clock. Well, the first night the car started messing up. The steering wheel started jerking back and forth. We took it to the shop the next day, so there was nothing wrong with it. Actually, the brakes messed up. The second night, that's what happened. We went home and we quit, which meant we weren't going to get paid because we didn't work the whole week. We went home, and I was just like crushed, and I thought, I might as well just kill myself. And I was seriously considering committing suicide. And we went to sleep. I had this experience, and after this dream, I woke up, and my wife woke up at the same time, and I said, I just had the weirdest dream. And she said, so did I. Tell me what yours was. So I told her we had driven around all over Nacogdoches, and same in her dream. And I said we had stopped at a friend's house, and we had sat down in a car. She told me, no, in my dream, I had sat down at a picnic table with the 3 of them. She said in her dream, they were all in a car. We were all in a car. Well, I got up to go in the backyard. In her dream, I left into the backyard, and they suddenly got afraid, and they crawled under the car, and they saw a man's lower legs, as he walked past the car and into the backyard where I was. Well, I went into the backyard, and there was a chain link fence there, which wasn't at his house in any place else. And suddenly I'm looking at this glass cabinet, the same one that these little men had been popping in and out on top of. And I noticed this figure, his head, and I looked down, and suddenly this head springs up, and it's like the 7-foot guy. And I'm afraid of him. though I don't know why. He didn't look mean or anything like that. He was a little straggly or had a beard or something, unshaven instead of a beard. And he said, "Don't kill yourself. We have schools for you." And then he turned into a glass or crystal skull floating about 6 foot up in the air. And then he shot off. And I woke up and told my wife about the dream, and then she told me hers. And they were almost identical, except she had not been in the backyard. That day, I ended up going to a bookstore where some people told me they were hiring janitors at college. I went up there. They gave me a job. This guy put my name on a plastic tape and put it on this board, and this woman on another board that represented buildings. And he stood back and looked at him, crossed his hands across his chest, his arms, and picked up and switched the tapes, put me in the education building where I had just got a teacher's certificate. And 1 year later, they found me 2 different jobs in one town, teaching school, and I had my pick of whichever one I wanted.
It's funny how sometimes we get placed in situations and we may not know that they're even there, but then they seem like they fall into your lap sometimes, and that's not usually how the job market works.
Right.
Yeah.
No, in fact, I hadn't been able to get a job with my master's degree in art and my MFA in art and my bachelor's degree in English. I had not been able to get a job, so I had gone back to school and gotten a teaching certificate.
Wow. So where do you think that leaves us? Because we, obviously you've had a lot of experiences. Can you tell us a little bit more about your mantis experience? And you do know that I love praying mantis. These are like my little darlings. And I'm a weirdo, and I do keep praying mantis. Actually, they keep me. So tell us a little bit about that.
I'm jealous of you having them in your house.
Oh man, they flock to my house. They flock to my house. They stay inside my screened-in porch, and then I bring them in the winter.
I like them, and I'll carry them around. They'll ride on my hand.
Yeah.
So I think they just don't seem to be afraid of anything.
Oh no. And you know that they're the only animals, or the only bugs that can actually hear. They have like a hearing, some type of organ in their abdomen. So that's sort of funny because when you talk to them, they respond and look at you. Very strange.
Yeah, I didn't know that. I mean, I thought they could all hear. Learn something every time. Well, the second mantis that I saw looked like a mantis, and this happened in 2009, and it happened shortly after I realized what was happening to me. I spent a week walking back and forth under an electric line behind my house that goes through my woods, telling them I wanted to know what was happening to me. I wanted to know if I was crazy. I wanted to know if they were abducting me. I wanted to know. And finally, I boiled it down to, I want to know what you're doing, and I talked about it around. I said it out loud or in my head for at least 6 hours a day for 5 days, and I was very willing to go on with it for the rest of my life until I got some kind of answer. I figured they'd get tired of listening to me, so they'd tell me. Well, I played a small set at a restaurant near my house, and it went really bad. The first song was good, and then the words just started evacuating my head right before I'd sing them. So I made up most of the words to these songs, and I couldn't leave because I had all this equipment with me. A man came up out of the audience, and there were about 20 people, and he told me he was a guitar player and to get my sheet music out of my guitar case, and he would play, and I could sing, and he said, just look at me and pretend we're in the living room. So we did that, and it went real good. The last song I sang was Hey, Mr. Spaceman by the Byrds. Went home, couldn't get to sleep. I was trying to sleep. It was past midnight, and I'm an early bird. So I put on the meditation CD, and I got really deep into a deep trance. I could not tell that my heart was beating. I could not tell that I was breathing. And then suddenly, I wasn't in my bed. I was in this hammock, and the hammock was hung from side to side instead of end to end. And it seemed to be made out of leather or parchment, but I looked at it, and it wasn't either of those things. It just sort of seemed like it. And it had blankets in the bottom of it. One of them was pretty dirty and torn up, and one of them was a child's blanket. And I reached up and grabbed the edges of the hammock and pulled myself out the end of it and landed on the floor. And I looked around, and everything looked sort of fuzzy. I actually reached up to my face, and I realized that I didn't have my glasses on, and I had not had my glasses on when I lay down to meditate. So there are two other hammocks in the room, and I start to walk towards one of them to look at it, and I hear no. And suddenly I go, wow, I am on an alien ship. They're showing me what they're doing to me. Wow. And then I hear the footsteps, and I go, I don't think I'm ready to see these guys. I'm not ready to deal with aliens. Then it went black. Although, I was aware of everything going black, and then it was back, only I was laying on a table, a metal table, and in a dimly lit room. There were three grays at the foot of the table, just like they had been when I was a child, at the foot of my bed. And there was this creature to the left of me, standing back, sort of in the shadows. He looked like he was 7 feet tall. His head was sort of oval with these two big eyes on the end, and he was wearing a robe with a high collar. And I could sort of see a bony little finger, but that was about all I could see. Well, he says, okay, first off, at this point, I was going to freak out. And he said, don't be afraid. And I wasn't afraid. I felt fine. Then I was in my bed. It's hard to explain this, but I was in my bed and I was with him at the same time. My friend Daryl Sims, who's the alien hunter, and he investigates alien abductions and things like that. He told me that they can make you see through their eyes, and also they can make you feel like you're wherever they want. Well, the picture turns into a black and white and gray picture, moving picture, like a black and white movie, and then it pans in on me. And it changes into X-ray, and I can see into my body, and I can see my body from my neck down and just above, just before my knees. And when they used the alien probe, and I could see it go about a foot into my body. But I couldn't see them because the way the picture panned in, they all disappeared from the picture, or I would have been able to tell what was inside of them. Then I was in my bed. All of that was gone. I was awake. I was very happy, and I thought, wow, they showed me what they're doing. They're real. I'm not crazy. And then I went to sleep, and I just went instantly to sleep, which is unusual because I have insomnia, and it always takes me an hour to go to sleep. So the next morning I woke up, I drew the picture. I either drew it that night or the next morning. I can't remember. Drew that guy, the 7 foot tall, because I was going to show it to this friend of mine who knows a lot about abductions and everything. And I figured this was going to prove that my experience was not real and it was a dream. Then I started crying, and I lay there in bed and cried for about 45 minutes. And then that cleared up, and I felt fine. And I thought, well, maybe this was trapped emotions from other experiences that was escaping me. I didn't know what it was. Later that day, I found out that I liked music that I'd never liked before. I liked food I'd never liked before. I had a much broader range of everything that I could enjoy, which that was good. Well, I went over to my friend's house, and I told him what had happened. And he's the person that had told me I was abducted. So anyway, I show him the picture, and I said, no, this is probably going to prove that it was all just a dream. Well, he turns around to his computer and types in a web page and pulls up this picture of a drawing of the very exact same creature wearing a robe, same head, everything. It was a child's picture, and it was called a mantis. And I could see how it looks sort of like a mantis, a gigantic one.
Well, I've heard of people having experiences with them, and the ones that I've talked to always say that they don't feel threatened by them, and it doesn't seem like you really felt like in danger with them, correct?
Correct. I did not.
All right.
Ever? You've never felt that way? Never felt danger?
Have you ever felt in danger? Good question.
The one time, I kept telling him I wanted to see him again. And I kept telling him over and over again. And I lay down to meditate, and it was about 7 o'clock. I was going to meditate, or it was 8. I was going to meditate, and then I was either going to watch TV or go to bed. Well, I lay down to meditate. Then I got up, and I walked into the kitchen, to turn off the light because somehow I had slept longer than I had meditated longer than I planned on. Well, I reached up to turn off the light, and these two arms fold around me and grab me and lift me up off of the ground about a foot, spin me around in the other direction, still holding me really tight. And I'm claustrophobic and have been ever since I was 5. And we fly out of the kitchen and down this long hallway. There's no hallway in my house at that point in time, especially one that long. And then into the bedroom, which wasn't my bedroom, and up on top of this bed. And everything in this bedroom was like Formica and metal and plastic, just, crisp, shiny stuff. My house is all wood. And right up against, my nose is literally right up against the wall above the headboard. And I can't move. I can't get loose. And I start to freak out. And this voice behind me, or in my head, it seemed like it came from behind me, but it was probably in my head. But it said, "See, you're not ready." And then I was in my bed.
Uh-huh.
So that was a little scary while it was going on.
Yeah. So, okay. So when you were, the last major experience that you had, was that back in 2009? Or are you still having experiences now?
Well, they come about once a month, but usually all I see are bruises, punctures, bumps, all these little bitty punctures, things like that. Or I won't feel at all good, or I will feel like I haven't slept all night, even though it seems like I slept 5 or 6 hours.
Yeah.
But my last experience where I saw them, and there have been only 3 where I saw them. Well, there's been one now, actually. But anyway, it was in last year, March 8th.
Can you tell us a little bit about that one?
Yes. I'd been told by a psychic a year before that my soul was not human, that it was not from Earth, that it was from another dimension, and that I was born here and I was born a human so that I would have human experiences and be able to relate to being a human, even though I've always felt like I wasn't human. So everything she told me had come true. Everything over a year's time. Everything in this hour reading had come true. And I thought, well, maybe, and she had laughed when she told me that I wasn't human and said, well, you're probably not going to believe this. And she was right. I didn't believe her at first. I decided I was going to meditate on it and see if maybe I could believe it or how I felt. And I started thinking about it from all different aspects. One funny thought was I started going, God, I wonder what I look like, because I might be really ugly. And then I went, well, but I won't care. So all of a sudden I felt it. I felt like it was true. I never felt like I was human. I'd always felt like I'd been left on my parents' door. I'm totally different from everybody in my family.
Maybe that's what a black sheep is supposed to look like.
Yeah.
I think a lot of us are the black sheep of the family, so I get that.
Or the ugly.
Are you Byron? You're not redheaded, are you, Byron?
Uh-oh, the stepchild?
No.
Yeah. So we can. All right, we'll have to step. Okay. All right.
Well, yes. Well, anyway, I felt it. I felt it emotionally and intellectually, and suddenly it was like 2 fingers. I don't know what they really were, but it felt like 2 fingers pushed into my head, right at the base of my skull in the back, and grabbed what would really be me or my soul, and started pulling it out of my body. And my ego was going, I want to go. I want to go. And I thought, you're not going to get to. It's not up to me. And then I was very small, and I wasn't in a human body. I was probably more like an orb or something, or a speck. And I was in this place that in front of me was a wall that was infinite in all directions. And it was made out of, it was like it was made out of nothing, but it had a geometric pattern on it that was like it was done with neon lights. Everything where I was outlined in this light.
Was it like a hologram type? Did it look like a hologram maybe?
No, because a hologram, they're trying to make it look real.
Mm-hmm.
it was like it was made out of energy or plastic, but not solid. I mean, it would have the look of a clear plastic, but with shiny edges and things like that. And there were these three guys in front of it, and they were dressed in robes, and they were sitting in these chairs, and they looked like they would be 7 or 8 feet tall if they stood up. And one of them says, and first off, I heard Council of Three. That I just heard that. And then one of them, and I knew he was speaking for all of them, one of them said, "We've been waiting for you to realize this. We're very proud of you." And then they downloaded some kind of information into my head that came in so fast I couldn't remember it at that time. And I think it comes to me now, some of it, and it seems like my own thoughts, but there's something I would never think of. So anyway, then it was apparently time for me to go, and I started moving backwards. Well, first off, I was hit by this blast of wind that felt like a wind of love, and it just ripped through me, and it felt fantastic, and I felt completely loved. And then I started moving back, and I knew I was going towards my body. And though I didn't have eyes, I could see this shape coming towards me that looked like a cookie cutter shape of me, of my physical body, about 4 inches thick, about 5 feet tall, 6 feet tall. And it and I collided and became like one and moved right into my body. And my psychic abilities got much stronger after that. Once again, I went through another change and liked even more stuff. And I became calmer.
No, I actually felt a similar situation when you talk about that just huge outpouring of love. I had an experience. There was a sort of a feminine energy being that was in the room, and I awoke to her, and I could see her. And I really I didn't know what to do, but I knew I had to say something. It was almost like she was not really just watching, but she wanted to interact. And so I reached out my hand and I said, if you want to touch me, you can. And of course I'm thinking, this is probably not a very good move. But, she and then immediately I felt this overwhelming sense of joy and love and just something that is so intense that I've never felt it any time in my life that overwhelmingly. And it sounds similar to that situation. So I'm wondering if it's almost like a gift. Is it a gift for us to receive that? It's almost like a confirmation that there is a God and we are loved.
I wanted to tell you a story that I did not write in my book, and I've never told to anyone. I was 8 or 9 years old. My parents had yet to take us to church. And I was in my house alone, and I don't know how it occurred, but my mother wasn't there, my sister wasn't there, my father was at work. And we had a small hallway in the house. It had 2 rooms off of it, one on each side. But this time I go to this hallway, and it's like 35 feet long. And there are these curtains hanging along the sides, and they're billowing like there's a wind inside of the house. And down at the end of the hallway are 2 French doors, and I can see they have sheets hanging behind them. But I wasn't afraid of anything, and I walked down the hall. I opened the door, and next I'm walking out of that room and closing the door behind me. And I don't know what happened while I was in there, except that I was thinking about God, and it seemed like I knew that God was everything, that you didn't have to worry about that. And I knew that there was no hell, and so anyway, it was like 5 days later, my parents take us to church. And I also knew that the red words in the Bible were basically, they said the red words in the Bible are the only ones that you need to worry about or that you need to pay attention to, period. Don't worry about the rest of the stuff. Don't worry about what they're going to say. So I go to church, and didn't really fit in with what they were saying. It didn't match what I knew with such certainty after that weird event, but of course I couldn't tell anyone. But I had the concept, I actually became a deist. I believed there was God, that it created everything, this intelligence, but that most things work mechanically, and it doesn't have to concentrate or even care about human beings.
Join the club,
We're
brother.
here doing what we're supposed to do.
There you go.
Yeah, I think Kevin has some comments on this, and I think it's a perfect time to bring those in, because he said he was biting his tongue on the God thing, which he does. But I think you're able to chime in on that.
Yeah, I mean, the deist thing, I do. There is a higher power. We're too, as human beings, our blueprint, everything about us is too perfect. Things just didn't happen. There was some greater force, higher being, but when you start using the word loving and good along with the word God, that's when I jump off the bandwagon. So, but yeah, the deist, I'm right there. There is the higher power. There is a rhyme and reason for everything, every one of us. I just think our higher power is alien. It is some. It's not a spiritual thing. It's a real thing, and I think we are the product of what an alien colony or that higher power, that intelligence has designed us. So, but there's my chime.
I believe in God, but I do not believe in church. And somehow a lot of people mistake the two, and they think if you don't believe in church, you don't believe in God. Well, that's just not so.
I agree. Now, do you believe in a loving God? Do you believe in a God who is good? Do you ever utter the words when something goes well for you? And I cringe every time I see one of these prima donna sports athletes get on. I'll use it. Tim Tebow, college. I mean, great guy. But when good things happen to Tim Tebow, he professes God is good. So if anybody who says God is good, to me, it's a very arrogant thing to say, in my opinion, because why is God only good to you or Tiffany or Byron, but not me? Is it?
Right.
I don't get it. Or the kids, or that defenseless child who prays every night before they go to bed, only to have someone come violate them later. I know I'm going deep here, but but that's reality. There's kids who suffer. There's good people who suffer. You look at, I don't get that. So whenever I hear God is good, I will. To me, it's almost like nails going down a chalkboard, because I don't buy that. I can't. And then then their recourse is, if he's not good, then he's working in these ways. Okay. So this child who is suffering, that's an agenda for. I mean, if you could say he's a good God, then you got to be able to say he's a bad God. If he's loving, then you got to say he's hateful.
There's yin and there's yang. There's dark and there's light,
right.
Unfortunately. And we do make our own decisions, not that these children ever have that option. But when it comes down to it, we appreciate, when we hear things like this, we appreciate the fact of their suffering and sorrow and pain, and we try to take care of our children and our family even more than we would have had we not known that there was this suffering and pain. Now we know there's a reason why we have to protect them. And that might sound odd, but I am coming from a position of pain, and I do feel that there were many times when, given a chance, you could sit and recoil and hide in a corner and just cry yourself to sleep. But then you wouldn't be able to appreciate the sun when it rose the next morning. So I don't know.
Yeah. But what is 10 Commandments? Isn't one of them, thou shalt not kill?
Not everybody listens.
No. I'm just saying that's one of the 10 Commandments, though, right? Isn't that one of the? Okay. And my response is that for anyone who was to do something to one of my children, I will violate that commandment. I don't.
I will too.
Yeah,
yeah.
and I think we all will.
I'll be right there
I
with
think,
you, Kevin. I will.
right, we all will. And I just,
And you know what? I will ask forgiveness. I will ask.
You know what?
Not permission. Remember that?
And I guess, and that's the other thing. That's the other thing too that cracks me up. The other thing too is that
you brought it up last show that we had, and you're absolutely right, because you know what?
Yeah.
There's only so much forgiveness, and I will ask for it if I have to come to that.
Okay. Now, why is it though? Is that when people?
Yourself.
Yes, exactly. There you go. But usually people who wind up finding God at a late in their lives are those, and I may be off base a little bit. This is my opinion, who have either hit rock bottom or have just been so bad their ways that now they're on hard times, or they're living a life sentence in jail, because they murdered or whatever they did. Then those people find God. Why is it that I don't get that either? How
sometimes it just looks good to try to get out, and you've studied the Bible. It's like studying law, and sometimes it just looks like it, and it looks better for forgiveness from everybody that you've ever wronged.
Right. Okay. Gotcha. All right.
Most people get trapped in their ego. Most people are asleep. They're hypnotized, and they think they are their egos, that voice that constantly talks in their head. When there's more than that, there's the thing that listens to that voice, and that is what exists after death. The thing that is back at the base, back at the back of your head, up above the spinal column in the brain. That's just where its location is. It is not a physical thing. The ego is a set of neural pathways programmed into you by everything that happens to you until the age of 6, basically, and the way you react to all of those things, everything that's said to you. That's why people's political beliefs are usually their parents' beliefs. In fact, their religious beliefs are their parents' beliefs.
And religion,
unless
right, exactly.
they wake up just enough to question it.
Mm-hmm.
What was that? Kevin?
Learned behavior.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, we can talk about that too, because we just had a nice little election, and this is probably the first year that I made my own choice. And I've been through, a few different presidential elections since 1996. And I'm telling you, at the beginning, you do what your parents say. Okay, yes, Mom. Okay, yes, Dad. I got it. And I remember, yes, I'm voting for, such and such. Bush, yes, I got you. But at some point in your life, you have to start making your own decisions. And those guidelines don't have to hold true for your eternity. You do make your own decisions based on your experiences, and that's a good thing. But good guidance is a gift too. But making your own decisions is very important.
We just that our parents are in the same mentalities like Charles Manson or something to that effect. We can only hope.
Right? brainwashing of America.
Yeah.
Oh man. Oh gosh, it's been a great
good
time.
stuff. Yes.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
Brian, as we wind down our shows, I do this little thing called Round of Shots, kind of a tongue-in-cheek on the shooting from the thing. It's 6 questions I'm gonna throw at you, quick Q&A, meant and fun. Get a side of the guest that we haven't discussed during the show. So bear with me. And by the way, check this out. I just went while we're talking. I can't lie. I admit it. I went CD Baby, downloaded your music, and I sampled a couple. That's right up my dark twisted alley. So I appreciate it.
Is it all synthesized?
Yeah, it is going to be killer. I can't wait to listen to them all.
Kevin.
Just
send it to me.
I'll hook you up. Thank you. I can already tell. I'm thinking.
Don't tell
now, no offense, Byron. No offense. I say this with all due respect. Can I first of all, can I ask your age right now?
66.
And again, with all due respect, I find it totally. I'm blown away that someone we're talking to who's 66 years old is putting out music. The music that I sampled and we'll listen to later is pretty hip. I mean, it's That's impressed. I guess that's maybe.
Is it like a club in Ibiza in the summer?
It's to me, I tell you, he mentioned, meditating. It's got this vibe that, well, Tiffany, probably on some nights that you do certain things, probably like tonight, what you're doing during the show, and you add the music to the layer, it will take your whole night to another level. And I'm counting on that. So,
Really?
Byron,
Okay.
much props to you, Byron. Okay, yeah, Tiffany, you'll love it. It's killer.
Okay, so I don't
All right.
have to go to Ibiza, right?
No, you don't. You don't.
All right,
Yeah, we'll
have to check it out,
I think it's it will complement the night. Put it that way. That's a good way to put it. And I'm a music guy, so I love all kinds of music. So, props to you, Byron. Round of shots. First question for you. Actually, it's a music question. Name the first concert you attended.
Joe Cocker, Mad Dog is an
Joe
Englishman in Dallas, Texas.
You can. What is that? You can keep your hat on. You keep your hat on. That was one of his
Yep.
songs.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, that
I
was
like
He sang that one.
Yeah, that song, I remember that song because that was a song. Do you remember the movie 9.5 Weeks?
Yes.
Kim Basinger, Mickey Rourke.
Kim Basinger.
Oh,
Mhm.
how hot
That was Mickey
that movie?
Rourke.
And,
That was
yes,
Mickey
Rourke
before
back in the day.
before he screwed
Yes.
up. Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but that movie was like, God, that was Mickey
It was
Rourke. I was a
good.
fan of
Hot.
back in the day.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite movies.
Good
Yeah,
movie.
there you go. Good tie in there. Number 2. What was the last picture that you took with your phone? Be honest, Byron. A little kick
My
away.
house.
Really? Oh, really?
Your
Your
house.
Oh, okay.
I'm reciting it, and every time I finish part of it, I take a picture of it so I can look at it later. And I've
Show
been
the
doing
hard
it all by
work.
myself.
His picture of
I
his
like
house, Tiffany. Wink, wink.
I like that.
Yeah.
I know, right?
Yeah, right. All right. Yeah,
That
we'll get
artistic
through it.
guy.
I know. Yeah. All right. Number 3. Tell us about. Oh, this is probably going to be legit. Tell us about the weirdest scar you have and how did you get it? Well, you've been in
That's gonna be a good
wrecks
one.
and accidents. Yeah, he's like got one big
Actually-
scar. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Yes, I have I'll just say it. I have a scar from my navel all the way down to the thing that you were hinting at being photographed from having cancer when I was 2.5.
Oh, that's right. That was at the beginning. You were only 2. That's what I wanted to know at the beginning, and I totally missed it. Oh,
Good
my goodness.
Lord, I was
Is that a
right.
near-death experience?
We are going backwards. We're going to finish with him being 2.
Yeah.
Oh, we're going to finish at Benjamin Button, man.
Yeah, the last words Byron's going to utter is, I remember seeing that umbilical cord, and then I went blank.
Yes.
But go ahead. That scar, I mean, good Lord.
Yeah, it's 8 inches long, pretty much.
The scar, you're saying. The scar is, right?
Uh-huh. The
Kevin.
scar.
Right. Just confirmation. I don't know.
I missed that one. And it's
9.5
almost
weeks.
a half-inch wide.
Oh, my goodness. You poor thing.
Now I can't tell if he's being honest or if he's bragging. What is it, Byron?
I'm being honest about the scar.
Okay. All right.
It's already a late Friday night, so don't expect it to be clean. Like this is,
The closer we get to midnight, because we're Eastern time. I actually didn't catch. Where are you at, Byron?
Texas.
Texas.
It's
So you're
10:36 here, and it's 11:36 there.
11. So yeah, we're rounding. We're getting close to the midnight hour, which tends to make me a little silly. But hey, it's who we are. So all right.
I understand.
Anything else about the scar, or anything else you want to brag about?
No.
That question.
No.
Okay.
No.
All right. Number 4. If someone were to make a movie about your life, who would you hope would play you?
Well,
You can't say Christopher Walken because that was already Whitley Strieber.
I'd want to be in the movie, at least in a little cameo part. Brad Pitt.
All right.
Yeah. See,
Brad Pitt.
exactly.
Back
Go.
to Benjamin Button.
Exactly. But oh yeah, there's another
that's
bit
right,
button
yeah.
tie-in. There you go.
I've got it there.
Nice. Oh, that's funny. All right. Number 5. Is it better to beg forgiveness or ask permission?
I actually prefer to ask permission.
Do you now? Okay.
That's very proper. I like that.
Well,
Yeah,
I don't
it
like
is
begging,
proper.
at least not for forgiveness. There are some things I'll beg.
See, it's just not me, Tiffany, who thinks like
I
this at this
know.
time of the night.
God,
Yeah,
God, it's that time. It is. It is.
it is, and you know, it's a
quite
guy
quite
thing.
It's time
guy
to
thing.
shut it down. It must be.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. All right.
Around.
Last one for you, Byron. If you had access to a time machine, it could go anywhere in your past, living past, all the way back to the dinosaurs. Where would you go?
I would go back to the dawn of civilization, whatever that might actually be.
Nice.
The dawn of our civilization or someone else's?
Earth's.
Earth.
Well, it's probably
Earth,
someone else's,
okay.
but we came from it. Earth's
Earth.
first civilization, the big one.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. Good one. I like that.
All these things they say aliens built, I think that they actually come from a past Earth civilization, which probably came from aliens. But
Right.
you see, I think at one time we were much more advanced than we even are now.
Oh, I
Oh,
agree.
yeah. I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was probably internet back then as well.
Probably.
And it didn't
Or-
give you radiation poisoning.
Yeah, and
Right.
probably some guy that only took pictures of his house with his phone.
Probably so.
Exactly. One in every crowd. Good stuff. Great segment. Great show, Byron. Good stuff.
I've enjoyed it.
Well, we have to, and it's always fun on a Friday night to end it with a good laugh because you know we hear so many things that can be taken negatively, or some of them seem to be very distressing. But you know what? We still wake up. We do the daily grind, and you know, we get back out there every day. And when I say we, I mean, first of all, the experiencers, but also the researchers and the people that try to get out the information and spread it to everybody that is interested in knowing the potential truth.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Great. Very cool. Byron, before we let you go ahead and share again any upcoming projects that you have and your social media, where people find you.
Well, my Facebook page would be Byron Lacy, and I have two of them. One of them will say Byron Lacy Musician, and that is my page that has information about my music and my book and some pictures of alien marks, things like that. I have my book, Chosen Chronicles of an Alien Abductee, and you can get it at Amazon.com and Barnes & Noble. And it's at Amazon, it's paperback and ebook. Then I have 4 or 5 songs out right now. You can get them at CD Baby, or you can go to my webpage, www.byronlacy.com. They're 99 cents a track. You can go to Amazon and just type in my name, and it'll pull up a page that shows everything. I've got a science fiction book, a poetry book, and then my nonfiction book, as well as music.
Well, I am so excited to check out your music too.
Yeah.
Wonderful show. We loved it. We had so much fun with you tonight. And,
We did.
it's good to hear all of these stories. So thank you for sharing with us.
Thank you
You're very
very
welcome.
much.
I had a wonderful time.
Good deal. All right. Byron Lacy, author, abductee, musician, and he's humble with his phone camera, but he's not so humble when it comes to scars and, I guess size does matter, after all, Tiffany. So there you go. That's how you end the show.
All right.
All right. Byron, thanks so much for hanging with us. It was fun. Good stuff. Love it.
Thank you.
Thank you. You have a good evening.
You too.
Take care, brother. Good show, Tiffany, as we're rounding
Why does
third
it
and
always
heading
lead to
for
sex?
home.
How does that happen?
Say it again.
I said,
I'm sorry.
how does it always end in sex? We have something that has to relate at some point. I'm just not getting
I don't
that.
think none of us uttered the word sex, so I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, no, it didn't. We were talking about pictures.
We were talking about pictures. We were talking about, we didn't take it Yeah, I mean, people can think what they want to think, but anyways, good, another good segment, good show. As
Now we're going to
people
have a
will be
break for a week, right?
Christmas break, if you will,
Yeah.
23rd. So we'll take that night off, and we'll come back on December 30th. Go ahead, share with us who you have lined up there.
Well, on December 30th, we have Christopher Geritano, who's coming on to discuss a few projects that he's working on. One of them was the Montauk Chronicles, which has to do with mind control and alien interaction and military. And then the other projects are involved with Bigfoot and will be shown on the History Channel. So it's very current, and he's really working hard. So I'm excited to just dig into both of those topics. So, Kevin, I'm going to send you a video, and you're going to have to check it out before then, all right?
Will do.
All right.
All right, Tiffany, good show. Have a groovy night. We'll connect back on the 30th, and
Happy
we
holidays.
won't be, same to you. You and yours. Peace out, Louisville.